Hello, friend. Welcome back to Couch Tales, Why We Do What We Do, the podcast where we dive into the psychology of what makes us tick, sometimes with peril, sometimes with laughter, and always with a little bit of science. Today, we're talking about a modern-day struggle, the panic that sets in when someone doesn't text back right away. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You send a message, you wait. Nothing. Your brain starts whispering, did I say something wrong? Are they mad at me? Did they fall into a black hole? Something I've wondered myself. Well, buckle up because today we're going to explore why our brains do this. And spoiler alert, it's not just you. Story number 1, the texting dilemma. Meet Kara. So here's a little story about what happened to me the other day that made me go, why do we do what we do? I texted my friend Kara asking for some feedback on my project. Shortly after, I jumped into my car, picked up a few things, and then drove home, which, by the way, took a solid 48 minutes. Once I got home and settled, I checked my phone and saw her message. I replied, and within seconds, Kara responded with, "Oh my gosh, I thought you were mad at me." Wait, what? Mad at her? Because I hadn't responded right away? Turns out, Kara had assumed that the delay in my response meant that I was upset with her feedback. She thought the longer I took to reply, the angrier I must be. The problem? I was just, busy driving. It wasn't like I was upset. I literally couldn't reply. But here's the thing. Why do we do what we do? Why do we automatically think the worst when someone doesn't text us back in an hour or less? Story number 2. Now let's talk about Mia, a 16-year-old high school student. Mia texts her best friend, "OMG, did you see what happened in class today?" and waits for a reply. 5 minutes go by, then 10, then 15, no answer. She starts replaying their last conversation. Did I say something wrong? Did I annoy her? Is she hanging out with someone else and ignoring me? Meanwhile, her best friend, she left her phone in her locker. Classic. But Mia's brain didn't tell her, maybe her phone's just not with her. Nope. Mia's brain went full detective mode and came up with the worst possible scenarios instead. Story number 3. The work email spiral. Meet Greg, a 42-year-old accountant. Greg sends an email to his boss with a simple question. "Hey, just checking in if you had a chance to review my report. Let me know what you think." An hour goes by. No reply. Greg starts sweating. Oh no, maybe I messed up something. Maybe the numbers were wrong. Maybe I'm getting fired. By lunchtime, he's already Googling. Signs you're about to be fired and updating his resume. Meanwhile, his boss, she's been in back-to-back meetings and hasn't even opened her inbox. So why do we do this? Why do we assume the worst instead of just thinking, hey, they're probably busy? Psychologists have a few theories. Number 1, evolution made us paranoid. Back in caveman times, social rejection was a life or death situation. If your tribe abandoned you, you were in serious danger. No food, no shelter, no protection. So, our ancestors developed hypersensitivity to social cues. If someone seemed distant, our brains went into overdrive, assuming the worst to protect us from potential rejection. Now, we're not worried about being left in the wilderness, but our brains still react as if a delayed text is a threat to our survival. Number 2, the negativity bias. Our brains are wired to focus on negative possibilities more than positive ones. Why? Because anticipating danger helped our ancestors survive. If a caveman heard rustling in the bushes, assuming it was just the wind could mean getting eaten by a predator. Assuming the worst, that kept them alive. Fast forward to today, though, and we're still doing the same thing, except instead of lions, we're dodging imaginary rejection from people who are just busy doing their own thing. Number 3, the need for certainty. Humans hate uncertainty. If we don't get a response, our brains fill in the blanks with whatever seems most likely, even if it's completely irrational. It's why ghosting feels so painful, why we overanalyze, read receipts, and why people spiral over text messages that haven't even been seen yet. Our brains crave closure, and when we don't get it, we make up our own, usually dramatic, conclusions. So how do we stop this? Let's talk about how to stop letting our brains trick us into unnecessary panic. Number 1, reality check. Before spiraling, ask yourself, is there a logical reason they might not have answered? Hint, the answer is probably yes. Number 2, assume the best. Instead of, they must be mad at me, try thinking, they're probably just busy. Number 3, communicate. If you're really worried, just ask. Hey, I noticed you haven't replied and I just wanted to check in. Most of the time, you'll find out it was nothing. And number 4, break the cycle. If you tend to overthink texts, practice stepping away from your phone and reminding yourself that slow replies are normal. Seriously, people used to wait 3 weeks for letters. We can handle a few hours. So back to Kira and Greg. Kira learned to not assume every delayed text means something bad. And Greg, well, he eventually got an email from his boss saying, "Looks great, thanks," and felt silly for freaking out. Moral of the story? Slow replies don't equal rejection. Your brain is just doing what it's designed to do. But now that you know why, you can stop it from taking over. All right, that's it for today's episode of Couch Tales, Why We Do What We Do. I'm your host, Analia. If you like this episode, please forward it to a friend. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind.